All right.
Okay.
What's your paint question?
All right, when you put paints in a palette, and sometimes they get really dried out and clumpy, and then, when you're wetting them down and you get clumps, you
Sure.
get these piece parts. Is that normal? Because these are Daniel Smith, they're
Yes.
not.
It's normal, and the paint, so depending on which paint you're using, you're gonna start seeing the difference between staining paints and granular paints.
Okay.
And granular paints, when they dry out, they tend to be a lot more flaky and turn into,
Little funks.
yeah. And staining paints, they're easier to reactivate and use, but you could reactivate granular paints as well. You just need to work at it a little bit more, and you can do it. But I don't, like if you come up and you look at my palette, you would see that I have quite a few colors that are crusted out. Now, I can still, excite them and get them going and make them blend. Okay.
Right.
So, a couple of things we're going to do today. First, we're going to draw out our rectangles. So we want, maybe I'm a little too, make sure you can see me. All right. First thing we're going to do is just, make 3 rectangles, almost the full size of your paper.
We're doing that now?
We're doing it right now.
Oh, are we doing it on a paper or big paper?
Whatever you feel like using. This is an exercise,
Okay, I'm just gonna-
so don't feel like you have to use it.
There you go. Put my-
Here's what I would also say about that, and everything's a consideration. If you can afford to use decent paper, use decent paper. If you're going to learn how to do something, learn how to do it on the product you will use when you are doing it for real.
How much does it matter if you use the back side?
I flip them over all the time.
Okay.
All right, so this one we're going to go with a high horizon. So we're going to draw a line about 3/4 of the way up. Next one we're going to go for a low horizon. We're going to go about 3/4 of the way down. And the last one we're just going to do right across the middle. This little horizon one. Now, this is all about the bead. This is all about creating that bead. So get yourself a nice big round brush. If you have it, get your mop. Get your brush out that has look at mine. This is what I'm using.
What is it? Is it the 8?
This is tin. This is a tin Intello. Not an expensive brush. This is just a mop.
Does it need to have a point?
It does not. And so I'm going to start off, I'm going to mix myself up some yellow, and that's yellow ochre. And I'm just mixing myself up a pool of it. I want to get a decent pool of it, and because I don't want to have to mix while I'm going. I want everything already mixed so that I just have to dip into my paint. So I'm going to go for like milk consistency with this. Maybe a little part of my pool that's in tea consistency. And I hope everybody understands what I'm saying. If you don't, please tell me. That's the consistency we're going for. Get yourself a sponge, paper towel, roll of toilet paper, whatever you prefer using. Now, I use these paper towels to control the amount of moisture in my brush. So after I've mixed that up, I'm going to use a different brush because I really don't want to mix my paints right now. I'm going to put some ultramarine blue, and I'm going to mix up a puddle of ultramarine blue. And down on one end of that puddle of ultramarine blue, I'm going to hit it with a little bit of burnt sienna.
On one end of it, you say?
One end I'm going to add a little burnt
And is
sienna.
this-
Just a little bit, not much.
And this is coffee or what?
This is probably coffee, yeah. I would say definitely coffee range.
Oh,
All right. So what I would also say is People are most commonly guilty of starting with too small a pool. Not enough paint mixed, pre-mixed. All right. So we're going to start at the top here, and since this is our sky, and it's a very short sky, we want a lot of water, and we want a decent amount of yellow in our pigment, right? So I'm going to start up here at the top, and remember, I want a bead, so I'm putting extra water down. So watch me do this.
And give me those paint colors again. You said yellow ochre.
This is just yellow ochre.
Period.
Period. There's nothing else mixed in with this. I mixed up some puddles of yellow ochre, ultramarine blue, and burnt sienna. All right. So here I go. And I used a big brush that's got lots of water. Look how much of a bead I already have. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Now, I'm dipping back into my water. I'm going back into my yellow. I'm going to add a little bit more. So now I've got pretty healthy amount of color there. Now I'm at a steep angle. Okay? And this is a little bit more steep than I usually work. But if you're not working at an angle right now, you're messing up. It has to be at an angle. This has to be
Your top color was ochre, yellow ochre?
yellow ochre.
Okay.
You are not going to get a bead without an angle. So now I'm going to go back in with just water and add more water to this mix. Now I'm going to take a little bit of water out of my brush because what I'm doing is removing water and pigment out of my brush. I'm dipping my brush back into my water and getting more water. So I'm reducing the amount of pigment in my brush and increasing the amount of water in my brush. And now I'm going back in. So again, this is more water. I'm just adding more water. And I still have a bead. So you can see I've already starting to develop a gradation, right? Now I'm going to dip my brush. I want to take out a little bit more pigment. So I'm wiping the pigment off of my brush. I'm going back in with more water. More water.
So you only filled the brush one time?
Well, I did like 2 strokes with
one brush.
with pigment and water, and then ever since then it's just been water. So now I'm going to go one more swipe with just water, and I've still got a bead. Now, I didn't tell y'all to pre-mix this. I'm going to just dip the tip of my brush into some permanent alizarin crimson. And I just want a little bit. I don't want a lot, just a little. And now I'm going into this bead with some permanent alizarin crimson.
Where's that?
That wasn't on the list, so I don't have it in this ballot.
Any yellow or any red will work.
All right.
Any red will work.
Terry, you gotta, like, when you say you want certain things, we put down in a box called Terry's Colors.
Right.
So
My
that's in there.
So now, I did the little bit of red, whatever red you got. What red did I put out for you guys?
Light red,
We got
cat
permanent
red,
Cat red.
box on
and whole red,
Quinn.
light red, and
Quinn.
Quinn red.
Okay, use the Quinn red.
Oh, too late.
Okay, use the, now, take a look at my wash. You can see a distinction between, now yellow's only going to get so dark, but I
No, I don't.
have a gradated wash. If you have any solid lines where you can detect a significant shift in color, then you didn't quite achieve what the objective is.
No, we didn't.
That's fine. That's fine. We're learning, right? That's fine. So you
She
have
missed the
so
very first class,
you're,
so I
you're,
think.
so what you need is more bead, more water, more water. Remember, I'm dipping into that water each time, right? Now I'm going to pick up my bead. Whatever bead is there, I'm going to pick it up.
With your brush or your paper towel?
Either or, I don't care. You can pick it up with your brush, pick it up with a paper towel, doesn't matter. Okay. So now we're going to do the ocean, and we're going to go back to our ultramarine blue. Get a decent amount of pigment. We want it dark. So this is going to be like almost I hate to tell you guys this, make it milk, but I'm gonna lean more towards, I would call it cream, but you guys, when I tell you milk, y'all tend to put down cream. So it should flow. It should not be straight out of the tube, right? So I want this to be fairly dry when I do this, and if it's not fairly dry when I do this, what'll happen is
It bleeds up.
it'll bleed up. It'll act like a
It looks like a wave.
yeah. So you want to be real careful
Can I blot that
to
out?
make sure it's dry.
Can I blot it out?
Yeah, you can blot it out. I blot it out. So I'm gonna hit mine real fast just to dry it off. You guys can wait. Now the normal angle I work at, even at home, is about right there. That's my normal angle. I've got it turned up a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. But that is my normal angle. Now I'm dry enough. It's not gonna, does anybody else want to use this? Alright. Now we're gonna go back in and we're gonna go to the ultramarine blue. And remember, I want enough water and ultramarine blue to kick off my bead. So I'm going to go in and pick up some ultramarine blue and some water, and we're going to lay it down.
Oh, I didn't do it that dark.
And I've already got my bead going. See, I'm putting a little extra water in there because I want a bead. Now, remember, the less times you touch your paper, the better. You're going to get better transitions if you're not touching your paper constantly. If you keep dabbing at it, you're going to cause all kinds of problems. So, see the bead? Know the bead, love the bead. Okay, now, I'm going to go again. Pretty much more pigment, more water, kind of same level, and I'm going to dip back into it and I'm going to bring it down a little bit. And in this case, you know, we've got a lot of room to work with, so I am not worried about.
So you're going over and making it darker since.
I didn't get it quite dark enough at the
So I
beginning.
should be darker too.
Yes, you should be darker. We're trying to make a bead that's going to go from dark to light. So practice getting the bead. If you don't have a bead right now, get one. Put some water in it. Put some more pigment in it.
So you can create the bead if it's not there.
Yes, absolutely.
Here.
You got to keep adding water till you
See
get a
that?
bead. You have a little bitty bead.
Oh, it has that really big-
Yes, go for more water. More water. More water. More water. More water. More, you're getting there. Go, go. That's what you need right there. Look at that. Oh, you got a bead.
It's a line.
See, what did I tell y'all from the very beginning? Watercolorists are mostly afraid of water and color. I don't know why.
But see, I'm thinking when you said a bead, I'm thinking of a little ball.
No, no, no. Look at this little bead of water I have running right along the edge here. All right, guys. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna add a little bit more water to my brush, and I'm gonna move it on down. Move it on down. Now I'm gonna add more water. I'm gonna move it on down. Move it on down. More water. Move it on down. Move it on down. More water. Move it on down. Move it on down. More water. Move it on down. More water. Move it on down. Let's go completely nothing but water, right? Get all that pigment out of your brush and finish it up. Go all the way to value 1. Look at that. I have a pretty gradation that went from a value of 8 or so down to a value of 1. That's what you want. That's what you're trying to achieve. And the more, that's pretty good. That looks really good. You just
Except for the splatters.
want it a little bit darker as we go,
I
but
know,
that's
I
not
couldn't- I
bad.
didn't see-
You're getting it, right? That's the goal. Get
Yeah.
it, get it. So now we've seen, that's our goal, lay out a gradation from 8 or 9 down to down to 1. And we're good. Now, I'm going to go over here. I want this to dry before I do anything else. So if yours isn't dry, we'll pass this around and see if we can't dry it out first.
Probably.
Okay, next step. Now we're going to go and we're going to put our boat in and our reflections in. And a combination that most watercolor artists work with that is really good for getting some darks. And I love it because you can push it. You can push it. So I'm going down to a brush around, this is a round 12, it has a decent tip on it. So I'm not going for a teeny tiny brush, I'm just going for a smaller brush than what I had. And I'm mixing in almost equal parts burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. Now, if it goes too brown, then put a little more ultramarine in. If it goes too blue, put a little more burnt sienna in. Okay? Now, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to just freehand a mast down to my boat. And I'm just putting in a boat right on the horizon line. And I'm making it dark. I'm going to give my boat a little bit of a sail. Nothing major. I'm going to come back in here and maybe add a little bit more blue this time. Now I'm going to come and on the horizon, further away, my waves are going to appear smaller, thinner. So I'm going to start off with kind of thin lines.
It's not dry enough.
And I'm going to go back and forth a little bit. I'm going to add more water. Because I want... Now I'm going to thicken the line up a bit.
Use ultramarine and
Burnt sienna.
And you got so dark?
Yes. And as I come down, I'm making that thicker and thicker. And I'm keeping it at tea almost consistency. I want it, and look how the waves start having this translucentness to them. They are looking more and more translucent. And I'm backing off of the burnt sienna the further I get down because I don't want it quite so dark. And I'm beefing up the Now I've beefed up my ultramarine blue. Now watch this as it dries. It's gonna lighten up.
Terry, you mixed that though, right? You
I did. I
Okay,
did.
that's how you got it that dark?
Yes. I told you, mix ultramarine blue and burnt sienna almost in equal proportions. If it comes out too brown, then add a little more ultramarine. If it comes out too dark, add a little more burnt sienna. I'm going to dry this. And really, guys, this is a great brush exercise because it teaches you like 3 major things. One is control over a gradated wash. 2 is your values, right? Your value gradation. And 3 is it's teaching you your lightest, so light, midtones, and darks, right? So it's got all of those elements in it. Now I could go for a third element. I could go for brush, for soft edges and stuff like that. I'm not even worried about that at this point. But look how much, look as this dries, look how that blue at the bottom becomes pretty translucent. And it's got a real beauty to it. You know, that's the whole beauty of Watercolor is it's got a little bit of translucency. How many of you practiced this at home after we did it the first time?
I did.
I did.
Good,
I
good.
did as I was told.
But I think,
Getting worse and
I think the
worse.
paper makes a difference, honestly.
Paper, absolutely. If you're not using a watercolor paper, you're not going to get the best results. I mean,
Well, this is watercolor paper, but it's 25% cotton, and what a
it
difference.
does make a difference.
It does.
It does. That's why I just said a minute ago,
Yeah,
if you can afford to use real watercolor paper, use it because, you know, it's like the difference between learning to race cars by driving a go-kart versus learning to race cars by driving a Formula One. Does that make sense?
yeah.
You can learn on both of them, but you're going to learn a lot more, a lot faster using the Formula One.
Right.
Okay, so now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put in my reflection of my boat. So I'm kind of doing a reverse, you know, of what's there. And now I'm going to come down here, and instead of just drawing a straight line, I'm going to make a little squiggly.
But you let your shadow dry first, right?
Yep. I'm done. This isn't, you know, I'm not trying to make a masterpiece. I'm trying to, it's a brush exercise. I'm learning.
Good daggone thing. That you're not trying. Oof. Okay.
So look at again, the difference between making the waves. Now for me, what I would do is I would take the waves and go all the way up to the edge. And you want gradation in this whole thing, so don't, like, if I were you, I would always keep it tilted in even more angle than what you got.
Go like
If you're not loving it, that's okay. There's no problem. We've got 2 more chances, right? So now this time we're going to start off with a little. We're going to go with some yellow. Always start with your lightest color first. We're going to go from yellow high in the sky down through some blue and into some red on the horizon. So we're going to go, in this case, we're going to go light to dark rather than dark to light. Everybody tracking?
Yellow, blue, and red.
We're gonna go light.
Light to dark. So in this case, we want to start off with probably 75% water and 25% pigment. We want probably in the between tea and coffee, you know, is okay. So we're going to come back up here and we're going to start at the top. And remember, this is light, so it's mostly. And like I've told you the last time we did this, yellow is one of the colors that has the biggest color shift. It's hard to paint in yellow because what you put down is not what it's going to dry at. It will dry lighter. So already I got my bead going. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add more water.
So we want
And
light to dark.
I'm going, and I want more pigment of yellow. If you're going to drop in more pigment, drop it in above the bead. Above the bead. I'm going to drop in more pigment. And then I'm going to come down and I'm adding more pigment to this wash each time I do it. Now, I'm going to go from that to, you guys should have this color. Go to the light yellow, light red color from Holbein. Add a little bit of that. Don't go crazy. Just add a little bit. Light red from Holbein. This is kind of an orange color. Watch. I'm going to go in just above the bead, and I'm adding a little bit. This is my light red from Holbein.
Kind of looks like Indian
It does.
I remember that being on the list.
It was.
It wasn't on the list.
It
No,
was.
It was.
Time around, maybe.
Here, we'll dab in there.
Devin.
If you don't have that, go with any warm orange you have. Any warm orange will work. Now this, so I'm gonna bring this down. It's gonna keep coming down. I'm adding more pigment and more water each time to keep my bead alive.
You are adding more pigment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now I'm going to go in and add just a touch of my red. So I'm going to add some alizarin crimson. So what if y'all have, what was the one I gave you? The cad red and the, forget the other one. So I'm adding a little bit more red and I'm bringing it on down. More water. Once you get there, you can pick up your brush. I mean, you can pick up your bead once you get to the line.
Did you say we add the rust above the bead?
If you add pigment after you put your bead down, you want to add it above the bead. But if you are continuing your gradation going down and you're getting darker and darker, you want to add your pigment into the bead. Now, honestly, I didn't get all that much darker. I almost stayed even tone. I just changed colors. I should have added more pigment as I went. I forgot what I was doing. Okay, now I'm drying. All right.
Should we clean our bead up now?
Yes, clean your bead up now. You don't want a bead sitting there. You're done with that particular wash. So now pick that bead up. Anytime you're done with the wash, fill the bead.
Now the orange, are we making it darker as it goes down or lighter?
You should be. I should have made mine darker. I forgot what I was doing and just kept going.
Okay.
But yeah, the goal was go from light to dark.
I still like it. I like the colors. That's what I think I like the best.
What happened here?
So now
Huh?
we're going to go back to our ultramarine and we're going to go from light to dark ultramarine. And again, this is just practicing going back and forth in your beads, and it's practicing your color transitions, right?
You said light to dark?
Yep, we're going to go light to dark. So, you know, again, we're going to go with probably 75% water, 25% pigment. We're going to go with like tea consistency here, and here I go. I'm just adding a little bit more water to get my bead going because I want a bead. And it's not quite as dark, or I'm sorry, I'm going light to dark, so I don't want it very dark right at the beginning. But as I go down, I want it to get darker and darker. So I'm going to add more pigment each time I go. Each time I go back, more pigment.
But we want the orange dry.
Yes, we want the orange dry.
I like to tear this piece off.
That one turned out pretty good. This one's not good.
You never have man's quality.
Remember, you know, practice less strokes, more getting one complete stroke across it. The more we touch it, the more we're hurting its luminosity, its transition. We're agitating it. and the way we don't want to agitate.
Sienna?
Okay. I am mixing together ultramarine blue and burnt sienna.
It was the burnt orange.
And I'm coming up here and I'm gonna do
Burnt orange.
my boat.
Yeah, it was that burnt orange.
So I'm just going boop
Too
and
wet.
okay.
I cannot.
So I got myself a little boat going. Put a little person on
There's
there.
more in the water this time.
I'm gonna put a sail on my boat. And so there we go, got a sail. And now I'm going to come in here and I want to do a wash for my waves. So I'm going to go in and pick up a little bit of my burnt sienna that I've already mixed, and I'm going to mix it into my ultramarine. I'm toning the ultramarine down, or I'm sorry, toning it up, I guess. So I'm putting some burnt sienna in to make my waves darker. I want my dark waves now. So I'm going to start off thin in the horizon. I want some thin wave action way out here on the horizon. And as I come down, I'm going to space them out a little bit, make them a little bit thicker. Look how I'm starting some from the edge, doing others from the middle. I'm not, we want some randomness to this. And now I'm making them thicker and going back in, getting some more. And as I come down, I'm going to make it darker. And as I get close to the foreground, I'm making the waves look bigger and bigger and bigger, or broader, I should say, wider, right?
What color are you using?
I'm using a little burnt sienna mixed in with ultramarine blue. So if you go, these are complements of one another, right? And if you mix them together, you're going to get a gray.
I'm sorry, you mix what together?
If you mix any complement together, you will get a gray. So you can push that gray darker or lighter. Now look at my water. Look how much all of a sudden it starts becoming a lot more realistic,
It really does.
right? So this is just me taking a little bit of extra time, going all the way to the edge, great, making my waves small in the horizon, bigger as they get to the foreground, right? And now I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to turn my camera off and let it cool off because it's